One of the first things that I ask each person when they come to see me for the very first time is, how familiar are you with what it is that I do? I'm a naturopath. When most people think about naturopathy, they can design in their mind certain images of dark-filled rooms filled with bottles filled with foul or ugly-looking supplements, the aroma of incense permeating the room, and someone running around in a guru costume or maybe a brass or bamboo skirt. Well, with naturopathy, you're really looking at a very concrete, scientific approach to the human body. You're looking at ways in which we can deal with health that have been formerly forgotten and now coming back into the recognition of our people and our society. When you consider medicine in general in this country, 80% of the medicine that's practiced is allopathic. This is your MDs and your DOs. They went to school to learn 3 basic modalities: to use a drug therapy, for surgery, and for radiation or chemo. That is the extent of most of their trainings, and that is what they are limited to do. The second form of medical discipline is called naturopathy. This is a very broad and very interesting field because it embraces many, many modalities. We see words like nutrition and dietetics and herbology. We see iridology. We see midwifery. We see Lamaze. We see sports medicine. We see reflexology, shiatsu, reciprocal inhibition. These are all the different things. Aminotherapy, enzyme therapy, glandular therapy. This is naturopathy. The third form of medical discipline is nothing more than a subcategory of naturopathy. This is your quantum or energy medicine. This is homeopathy. This is color therapy, sound therapy, radionic therapy, magnetic therapy. This deals with the vibrations that constitute our living body, and we'll be discussing that in a little while. As I said, we have 3 basic forms. 80% of the medicine here in this country is allopathic, but when you go abroad, you'll see that more and more physicians use naturopathy as a basis of what they do. As with any modality or any form of helping a person regain health, each form of medicine has its place in how to heal or help the individual regain their health. When we consider, for example, the philosophy of homeopathy, which is my love and my passion, we have to consider Samuel Hahnemann and his work. Back in his time, he made a statement that was his philosophy. His statement read, "Man is a spiritual being having a human experience, and the soul dwells within this physical form or vessel that we call our body. This vessel is made up of elements of the earth and is controlled by electrical stimuli. It is maintained by emotions, subtle energy, and of the utmost spirituality." Now, I believe that concept. I see that concept in work every day with the various people that I encounter and with what I do. When we look at that concept, though, let's look at the second 2 sentences where it says, "Our body is made forth of elements of the earth." When we were in high school, we were taught something called a periodic chart of elements. And on that chart, we saw the big single letters of C for carbon, O for oxygen, H for hydrogen. We saw words like calcium and magnesium and selenium and potassium and phosphorus and sodium. And we were taught that these were naturally occurring elements, elements that were made up of electrons, protons, and neutrons bound together. We learned that our body was 80% water, 72 to 80% in that realm, which is hydrogen and oxygen. This is an elemental binding. So we saw that our body was part of that, but most of us don't like to think of our body as being a mass of electrons, protons, and neutrons. So we think of our body in different ways. But that's the reality. The body is living chemistry. And you eat food primarily to replace in your body what is necessary to make it function. When we consider the fact that in high school biology we were taught that our body was nothing but cells. This was our 7th grade exam. We were asked if we had a group of cells working together to perform a function. It was called, and we had to fill in the blank. And the word was tissue. If you had a group of tissues working together to perform a function, it was called, and again, fill in the blank. The word was organ. If you had a group of organs working together to perform a singular complex function, it was called a system. And then we were asked to list the various systems of our body. The things like the muscular, the skeletal, the circulatory system, the endocrine system, the alimentary, the reproductive system. All the systems were required, but each system in your body is made up of different elemental substructures. If I was to ask you what is your bones made out of, you would probably tell me calcium, and that would be correct. Now, if calcium is what makes your bones solid, which gives support to our body, this is our frame, our skeletal system, can you imagine what would happen if the entire body was made up of calcium like our bone? You'd be like that tree that sits in my front yard, kind of rather erect and very immobile. So we see that the body is made up of different elemental substructures. We know that without the amino acid carnitine, for example, our heart doesn't function normally. We already know that if calcium is not present, we start to develop osteo problems because of bones not getting the calcium requirement. We know that without magnesium, we may have muscle cramps or spasms. We know that everything on that chart is in us to some point or another. Some of them very trace amounts, because arsenic, by the way, could hurt you if it was found in large amounts in your body. So when we look at that chart, we're looking at what is in my body. We're looking at the living chemistry that represents our body. The next ideal we need to discuss is what is nutrition? What is a symptom? What is disease? What is food? If I ask you to look in a dictionary under the word symptom, which most of you have probably never done, you will probably see that there's over 2.5 pages of what a symptom is in the Tabor's Medical Dictionary. If you look in Steinman's or Saunders, again, you'll find vast references to what a symptom is. But when you add these all up and you look at the simplest application of a symptom is defined as a biochemical expression of depletion or deficiency of a cell structure. Your body, as I said earlier, is nothing but cells working together to perform a function we call life. So when we look at a symptom, we're looking at something that's happened within the body chemically. But trust me, if your body went through the windshield at 65 miles an hour in a moving automobile, we're going to produce a lot of symptoms real quick. This is a different type of symptom expression. When we look at the word disease, we see that disease is qualified as a name given to a group of characterized symptoms. So in order to have a disease, we must first have symptoms. In order to have symptoms, we must first have a deficiency. Again, if we've not been involved in an accident. When we look at the word food, food is defined as something that nourishes the organism. So when we look at nutrition, we have to look at all the applications of what's going on within the body. If I ask you if you had consumed corn for breakfast, which is a common staple, we can look at that and break it down a little bit. When we look at corn, we have to look at everything about it, because this is part of nutrition. What it goes in as and how it leaves our body and how our body utilized it. So when we look at corn, we have to consider, where was it grown? What type of soil? What type of seed? Was it a hybrid, which has been genetically altered to grow very rapidly in a poor environment? The farmer, how many herbicides and pesticides and fertilizers did he put on this corn to make it grow faster? What was its location in proximity to plants that outsourced chemicals or passing trucks that went down the road or automobiles? Then, of course, how is the corn processed? How is it stored? If it's like any other corn, it has to be dried before it can be sold to a certain kiln level. Is it put in a silo where there's antifungal inhibitors in there and antibacterial inhibitors in there to keep it from not only molding in the corn crib, but to also keep it free of bacteria from possibly debris left by little rodents that were in there? This is all part of that. And then the processor bought this corn. What did he do with that corn? How did he process it? What did he put in that corn? Did he grind it up? Did he crush it? Did he bake it? Did he boil it? What is the end result? What did that processor do now to increase its taste? Because we're not going to buy it if it doesn't taste good. What did he put into it to increase its shelf life? So how many BHTs, BITs, how many nitrates or sulfates or monosodium glutenates, artificial flavors, artificial colors, artificial sugars did he put into this product to make it both appealing and have a longer shelf life? Then, of course, if this was a cereal we had in the morning, we had to put moo juice on it, milk. How many hormones were injected in that dairy cow to increase its yield? How many antibiotics and corticosteroids were put in her? What is the genetics of that cow, and what did that cow eat? Then, of course, you put this corn product in your mouth, and you were expected to chew it. How well did you chew it? How many enzymes were secreted during this chewing process? Then the food went down in the stomach. How well did it digest? How well did you assimilate what you digested? How well did your liver detoxify it? How well did it circulate through your body? And how well did you eliminate the byproducts? Did you have any allergenic response to this food? Was there any chemical in there that your body did not like that's built up over a period of time? Are you genetically weakened in certain areas? Do you suffer from other symptom expressions that inconvenienced your body, if you may, so that it no longer processes food correctly? This is a concept of nutrition. Then, of course, when we look at it, as I said earlier, food is defined as something that nourishes the organism. So are we really correctly calling our processed foods food? Or is this really something that fills our body? Most of us in this country eat food to fill our belly, not feed our body. When we look at the constituents found in our chips and our soft drinks and our cookies and so forth, which we constantly fill our face with, is this food? Or is this filler? Is this something that will lead to, again, more symptom expressions as we add days, weeks, months, years of decades to abuse to our body by not providing for it the fundamentals of what it needs to regenerate itself? I mean, if you really want to be honest, you need a master's degree in chemistry to interpret most of the ingredients on your processed foods. What we need to discuss now is what we're going to be doing here today. We're going to be hooking you up to a device called a Phasix. It's a Phasix body scan. It's going to read your body, per se, based upon frequency and frequency output. It's going to bounce against your body over 250,000 variances of frequency. The Phasix system does this in a very non-invasive way so that there's no harm to you, and it's kind of unique to watch the screen as it runs through its application. And as the different applications come against you, we see where the machine is leading us to. I've used many different types of electrodermal screening devices and EAV devices in the last 8 years, and of all of them, I have found this to be the most complete, comprehensive, and provocative of all the testing. When we look at the machine, though, we must first understand, though, what is a frequency? What is a vibration? One of the most common things that I ask people is, I tell them, your body is nothing more than a device that perceives frequencies from different levels. And I ask them to grab me a handful of air. Well, they can't. Why? Well, they need that air. That air is made up of different constituents that, again, we learn on that chart. It's made up of 18 to 22% oxygen, inert gases like nitrogen and argon and carbon, as well as a few spices we put in there like herbicides, pesticides, and smogs, but we breathe air. But it's a frequency, it's a vibration. It's made up of electrons, protons, and neutrons. I ask you to touch the chair you're sitting in, and you can do that. If you were to pick up a piece of metal, you could do that. And the higher the atomic mass, the tighter the density. And we notice it starts to gain weight. So your touch allows you to perceive low-level vibrations. Can you hear my voice? And of course the answer is yes. Your hearing allows you to perceive vibrations between certain parameters. I ask you, can you touch the color on my shirt? And of course the answer is no. But you can't touch the fabric, which is oscillating at a lower frequency. But the color is something that's purely visual. If I ask you to move your finger, you could move your finger or blink your eyes, or your heart would beat. This is an electrical response. This is a firing across the neuroreceptors. This is electrical current. How do we measure electric current? the ohms, the amps, the volts, the cycle per second of the sine wave. Again, you're dealing with a frequency. So in reality, your body is nothing more than a frequency perception tool, allowing you to perceive. You have taste, you have smell. These are frequencies. You have thought. This is a frequency. This is an energy. And again, in high school physics, we were taught that energy never dies. It merely changes form. Our body is nothing more than converting energies all the time to different senses that allow us to perceive things from different levels. So when we're looking at the phasics unit, the unit is actually outputting against your body different frequencies and registering back how your body received it. There's over 8,000 supplements outputted at various different levels to allow your body to recognize it. It outputs each frequency 8 times. And this assures a little bit more accuracy because it takes the average of those 8 outputs and creates a number called an NPR. That NPR indicates how my body received that frequency and what it thought of it. So when we look into the screens, we can see how is the body responding to aminos, to enzymes, to singular supplements like niacin and botany and choline and inositol. How is its hydration level? We're looking at the bacteria. Did the body recognize these things? This is how we're going to incorporate what we're doing here today. We're going to look deeper into the physiology of your chemistry to see how your body is going to function or not function by maybe just adding something simply to your body or your diet, or a little bit of a change of a lifestyle here to increase the efficiency of the body to eliminate the symptoms. We're not concerned with disease or disease names. That's not our area. That's not our level of expertise. We're looking at where is our body in its state of health. We're looking at how can we get into that body and provoke the body to perform in its normal state, to provide the integration of the homeopathics, the integration of the nutraceuticals, the herbs, the minerals, the vitamins, the glandulars, the aminos, the enzymes to help your body heal itself. The only thing that can heal your body is your body. But the only way that your body can heal itself is if it has the tools necessary to do so. So if you're lacking something, it can't heal. I mean, think, if you were asked to build a house, maybe something as simple as a dog house, and all you had was 1 2x4, 1 shingle, and maybe 6 inches of insulation, how much dog house are you going to build? Well, the same is true with your body. If you don't have the elements, again, I refer to as elements. Most of you like vitamins, minerals, and carbs. I think of it in chemistry. If you don't have the elements necessary for your body to function, it will produce symptoms. And again, a symptom is an expression of depletion or deficiency of the cell structures within your body. When your body goes through the process of healing, some people have heard of that proverbial, I feel worse before I feel better, the healing crisis that possibly can take place. Well, in some people it does, and I have to forewarn you this could happen. About 40% of the people will. That's normal. You have to get rid of the garbage, so to speak, that's creating the symptoms or blocking the ability of the body to function. For example, if the enzyme beds are blocked, then you're not going to break down certain key components of the diet that you've just taken in. Because hypothetically, what good is the best diet in the world if you can't digest it, if you can't assimilate it, if you can't break it down and circulate it through your body, and of course, if you can't get rid of what's left over. When we look at the basics of detoxification, the major organ that takes most of the work or the brunt of the load is called the liver. It's classified as the major alchemist of your body. It is responsible for the cleansing that takes place of our blood. It is responsible for the mechanism of detoxification. It is responsible for nourishing our body. So when we look at the byproduct, if you may, of cellular detoxification, what does your body do with this stuff? When you inhale air with whatever is in it, that air is brought right into your lungs. It fills your lungs, and within our lungs we have little things called alveoli. These alveoli exchange the carbon and oxygen and cause respiration to take place. Well, we're absorbing right through those alveoli the different spent gases and pesticides and herbicides and different things that we've encountered throughout the day. Everything that touches your skin, a percentage of that is absorbed transdermally. So all the lotions we've put on, and again the exposures to the chemicals and the pesticides and the paints and the perfumes and so forth, are absorbed transdermally, where they will go through the 3 layers of your skin into microcapillaries, capillaries and veins, and of course back to the liver to be detoxified. Everything you ingest in the way of food is going to be processed by your body. It will be absorbed through the villi of the small intestinal tract, up the hepatic vein to the liver, where the liver, again, has to process this. The byproduct of all this is called bile. The bile is used by your digestive system to break down food. When your body starts to develop more and more states or levels of chemicals or metals or whatever in its body, it's going to generate more bile. So we had days, weeks, months, years, or decades of exposure and absorption and stress factors and poor dietary factors, and our liver is really working quite hard to keep the body functioning. So when we look at bile, it is used by the stomach to break down food. What happens if we have excessive bile in our body? We start to develop symptoms like gas and flatulence and fermentation and gurgling, and our stomach sticks out. Well, we're no longer digesting food. We're burning it up. One of the first things that's lost with excessive acid in our digestive system is the ability to break down our simple nutrients. These are your cholines, your inositols, your pantothenic acids, your niacins, your botans, your B vitamins. This is what is responsible for feeding your entire endocrine system for the most part. This is what keeps your hormones normal, your nervous system in adequate functioning levels. This is what keeps your immune system at an optimum to keep us from getting other pathogens or exposures to bacteria or viruses. So we see that this is compromised right off the bat. Then we add to that the chemical breakdown that takes place with bile. Bile is going to break down into a very useful substance called urea. We all need that. But the urea breaks down into uric acid. Therefore, we look at excessive urea, uric acid. What is uric acid? Any textbook you open that talks about nutrition or uric acid will tell you that uric acid is thought to be the foundation, the basis, the cause of many symptoms like arthritis, bursitis, arthrosis, gout, rheumatism, macular degeneration, cardiovascular arrhythmia, and hyperglycemia. This affects most people in our country. This is called uric acid imbalance. Now, the uric acid has to break down too. It breaks down into lactic acid. This is our muscle cramps, our spasms, our numbness, our tingling. So the uric acid, or the lactic acid, has to be broken down, and it's broken down through the kidneys, where it's converted to urine. You notice we have a nice flow of UR words there. This is why this is taking place. So now all of a sudden we've got our kidneys involved. Now we've messed up our digestion a little bit, we've caused some irritation in our body and our extremities, and now our kidneys are starting to act out a little bit because of this high pH solution that's coming in and day out, week in and week out, as it moves through our lifespan. What do you think your kidneys are going to do about this? They're going to rebel a little bit. We may start to notice some aches and pains across the center of our back. We may start to notice that, oh my goodness, I've got a 100-mile or 1-hour bladder. If you can walk into a mall or a grocery store and know where every restroom's at, we may be having some bladder weakness. The kidney is responsible. So we have to consider this too. And of course, where's the bladder come in at here? This is the holding tank. This is where the kidney dumps its excrement. And as that time goes by, the bladder starts to get weaker and weaker as the lining starts to deteriorate and shrinks a little bit. And so the bladder is going down in capacity, and we're starting to notice again more urination. Eventually, it's going to leave our body through the urethra in the process of elimination. This is a cause and effect scenario that affects a majority of the people in this country because of poor dietary habits, stress factors, chemical exposures. And this is something we're going to be looking at today as we go through what is going on in your body. This may not be your problem, but again, this is something I want you to understand. And as we start to cleanse your body, if we start to invoke your liver to get rid of something, to tell your cell structures we want to detox, this could happen to you, and you may start to notice that, oh my, I do hurt a little bit. I do have a little bit more aches and pains. I am holding some more water. This is a natural process. Your body is 72 to 80% water. And so when we're going through this process, if we don't increase water, then we're not going to dump. And we're going to wish we never came to see somebody like me, because you're going to want to get it out. If we invoke the process of cleansing and your body does nothing to get rid of it, if you don't support the mechanism, if you don't clean the lymph, if you don't clean the bowel, you can expect to go through a healing crisis. We don't want that for anyone. No one wishes to feel worse. So we have to consider again that we're going to support the mechanism of the body. We're going to allow the cells to get what they need. We're going to invoke the cell structure to hopefully eliminate cause and effect relationship. But we have a level of compliance too. We need to support the body with water consumption. We have to make sure that we're getting adequate amount of fibers. And we also have to move around a little bit to get the lymph to move and clean our body out. That is the process of naturopathy, to help the body regain stasis through normal functioning with correct lifestyle and diet. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any other questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to ask me. I can direct your needs to different reference materials, books, and data that can support everything I've talked to you about today. This is your body, and we need to make that known, because I don't have the same stresses. I don't have the same environment. I don't eat the same diet. I don't have the same genetics. I don't live in your house, and I don't wear your shoes. So the more we can work together to understand our body, our chemistry, the more we can improve our quality of life in the homeostasis that we're trying to accomplish together.